let's start from the beginning. Tell us more about yourself, where you grew up, and just your life story and how you ended up, pursuing jazz.
Dumelang, firstly. Ka lebitso, I'm Bokang Ramatlapeng, ngwanana wa Nthabiseng. I I was born in Soweto, but I spent most of my childhood in Naturena. I still think it is Soweto because it's just very close to Soweto. My love affair with jazz really takes me back to my early childhood. So it's there's a lot to unpack, but I think the main person that is responsible for just the type of music I heard growing up was my older sister, Auskamohelo. I call her Auskamohelo. And so she played incredible records that are, it's Nina Simone, it's Sim Ngwawana, it's Pet Metheny at some point, and it's Mambo Simhlongo at some point, and it's Sisithandiswa Mazwai. It's just so many people. So I think by the time I turned 10, I was only just listening to that type of like South African artists, but also international jazz musicians. And I realized, I'm like, what's this? She's always playing these records, and I just realized, why do I really resonate to the sound, to the message? Because I mean, all these artists are not just, creating music for just, I don't know how to describe it, but it was conscious music. It was music to awaken us, to educate us, to encourage us, to inspire us. So just listening to it, to just the lyrics itself and the work behind the music that was made just brought me to the music. So I think why I fell in love with it was because of my sister, also just telling me. She would tell me stories while we would listen to the music and explain why these people wrote the music. And at the time that they released the music, like Nina Simone was releasing music at a very pivotal time in, the civil rights movement. So of course that there's education behind her records. So I think my love affair was just themed with education, inspiration, love, God, and everything else that has to do with just being an African child at that point, because we are post-apartheid even at that time. So imagine this Tanisha's album is coming after post-apartheid. So there's education behind that. So there's so much to say about that, but it's really just how I fell in love with this art form, because there was protest, there was love, there was inspiration, there was God, there was self-love, and being African and black, just all of those things.
And
put in one.
that's wonderful. It's lovely, how the journey just sort of unfolded.
Yes.
But I'm sure there came a point where you said to yourself, this is really what I want to do. This is what I want to... What was that moment like when you had to sit your parents down and say, hey, mommy and daddy, I think this is what I want to do. When was that moment for you?
I think, it's a very strange story. The first time I realized I could sing and also make peace with the fact that I could sing. I think many people, some people, find it early. They realize that, hey, I can do this. I really didn't know that. I was playing around listening to Tamia, Boom Shaka, and so I was just singing and having a good time at the time. But when I had my teacher Leslie, make me aware of the gift I had, that's when I had to sit my sisters down and say, listen, this is what's going on. I can sing, and I wanted to find out if you want to be a part of this gift I have, and do you want to be able to help me do this? So my sisters have obviously, Auskamohelo was already listening to these artists. She was already happy about that, because I found myself doing drama classes at the Market Theatre on a Saturday, because she just wanted us to just be cultured. Black children. Are you watching a play? What are you watching? Oh, you're going to go watch a play? Cool. Or are you going to watch a jazz, or are you going to the ballet? Gregory Makoma was a person that was very pivotal in my childhood. I was watching his plays. He's the dance ballet. So I think it was easy for me to sit my sisters down, because I was raised by my sisters, and my sisters loved the arts industry and understood why it was important for them to hear me out. So when I told them, they were first shocked. Like, can you sing? How? I thought you were going to be an athlete, because I was already sprinting 100 meter, 200 meter. I was that girl. I thought I was going to be Caster Semenya or something.
Sure.
But they gave it a chance. So I had my first performance, and it was the moment for me where I was like, ooh, this is real. And it's also just not about it was also how I saw how people responded to me, but it was also not just about me. It was how I felt the audience respond and how I felt at that moment. And I realized it's not just about the gift I had, but what was happening in the room at the time. So, and I was only 13 at the time. And so I was like, oh, okay, this is real. So when my sisters were in the room, they said, okay, we need to take it seriously. So when I told them, they said, National School of the Arts is a place that you can further your studies. And my sister was always about education. So she was like, if you're going to do this, you need to do it right. You need to invest in it. You need to actually make it a profession. So when I went to the National School of the Arts, that's when it moved from it being a talent to becoming, it's a profession.
Yeah.
We need proficiency. We are now moving away from it just being, an exciting thing, but it's a business. It's how do we make you ready for the industry and the world?
Yeah.
So I think, but that year in grade 7, and I had my first, performance, that's when my sisters were like, okay. And I also felt like, this is it.
How do you carry that as a 13-year-old? And I remember my mother used to ask me, are you okay? When you're listening to Miles. So how did you carry that at 13 and, how, that support and make it less daunting? Not devaluing the art, but also making it fun for a 13-year-old.
Sure. Firstly, I wasn't cool for like a chunk of my teen years because I'm like, yo guys, did you hear the news and on our album? It's like, what's that? But I think, sure, there's a lot to say about that. I think it was never daunting because I would do so much research about the artists that would find jazz. And at 13, a few people, like, who can I think of that was, I know by 14, Charlie Parker was already aware that he could play the horn, he could play his saxophone, and he was already checking the greats before him. Benny Goodman was one of his inspirations. And so at 14, you were learning this new art form. It's not just about just the proficiency of playing the instrument, but also the people behind the music. So it tracks you. Because it's like, oh, these people, besides them looking cool or playing cool, there's also the conversation, it's the community that drew me into falling in love with jazz. Sis Oma Kukuma Katini, when I got into the National School of the Arts at 14, she was already gigging and she was working and she explained this community and she sort of eased me into it because it was weird to say I'm studying jazz at 14 at National School of the Arts. Many people are doing pop, right? R&B at the time. So she eased me into it and she said, listen, we can definitely first deal with the fact that you're an South African, you're an African child. Then we talk about the what jazz is and how you can use it to just express yourself. But I never took it as a daunting thing because it was the community that drew me into it. She made me feel comfortable. She talked me through it. So by the time I was 15, I was ready to create and be a part of this community and of telling stories about our people, our struggles, our pain, our joys and all. So it just never became daunting because I found the community and I found other 14-year-olds that were interested in this love affair that we have with jazz and other artists that are looking to be a part of this community and create and co-create and just so many things. So it just never was daunting. It was more like, oh, okay, there's more people. Oh, great, let's just do it together. So I definitely know I wasn't cool for a while, but I made peace with that because it made me feel like I had a different way of expressing myself, and my friends also embraced it eventually. And I also became comfortable in my own skin by just using this art form as a way of expression. Never looking down on other genres and what they do, but I definitely was happy that I found a community to help me express myself. So yeah.
And now back to cool, right? just, in terms of your story and cultural influences and, your personal experiences, the Waters and Banaban Tabi saying are really beautiful pieces. Can you please just maybe share, some of your personal stories with that music, your personal influence, and because we hear what we hear, and we also create our own narrative. So it's also great, to hear the origin of that.
Sure. So I'll start with Banaban Tabi saying. Sure. Every time I talk about it, I always get emotional about it because it takes me back to 21 years ago. So Banaban Tabi saying, my mother's name is Tabi Singh. Ramatlapeng, my mother's name is Tabi Singh. And my sister's names are Kamohelo Manuku. And I have a twin sister, her name is Bok. So our mother passed away when my elder sisters were 21 and 23, and my twin and I were 6 years old. And my mom passed away, and, I think experiencing that heartbreak at 6 is a different way of my sisters at 21 and 23. Because obviously at that age gap is quite significant, right? My sisters are, they were in their teens when I was born. So when my mom passed away, it almost automatically makes you feel like I can't separate from my siblings. They're only 6. And so my older sisters were left with the decision to either let us go to Lesotho, because most of my family are from Lesotho. And so my grandfather, after my mother passed away in 2003, after the funeral, they sat them down and said, hey, bana ba banyane, they are very young, and you guys are young. You guys are in your early 20s. I don't think you should be taking care of kids. Rutlabanka will take them to Lesotho with us. And my elder sister Kamhela was like, no ways, you're gonna take my little sisters. When they were born, they felt like mine. And my mom used to say that to her a lot. Hey, not knowing that a couple of years later, she's gonna pass away. Sure. And so when my grandfather asked my elder sister, are you going to, what are we gonna do? We have to leave for Lesotho in 2 days. You've got 2 days to make up your mind. And so unfortunately, my dad, there's like a very lengthy story about that, but we are okay. But, Kasetu, Hausa, it's in Totsehanle, Vanakiba, the maiden family. Yeah. So my dad unfortunately couldn't make those particular decisions. So he was just, we will take care of this part of the job. So my sister said, she thought about it, and Ausmanuku, both of them thought about it and said, Reza Juan, do we take the kids? Do we? And so my elder sister said, no, they're gonna stay with us, we will raise them. You guys can come and see how I do this job, but these are my kids, I'm going to take care of them. So, I'm 6 at the time, and my twin and I obviously are feeling orphaned or somewhat, because you're seeing this fight, because it almost felt like a fight. Like, we're gonna take them, but you guys are kids, because they're in their 20s, so obviously, how do you say you're gonna take care of 6-year-olds? But my elder sister, Oscar Mohelo, was very adamant to say, I'm gonna take care of them. And for me to be 28 today and here, and living out some of my dreams because of that decision, there's a lot to unpack about that, but she did that. And why I wrote Banaban Tabi Singh was because I was just thinking about that, and my mom, it was last year, it was 20 years of her passing, and I thought about my sisters, and I thought about how they've taken care of me every single day, from being the 6-year-old, from high school. Taking care of your siblings, imagine thinking about yourself at 21. Ki degree kamo, ki di chumi chumi harelo, honale something ko, but hey, I have to take care of my siblings. So there's a lot, and I realized the sacrifice. I realized that, you were probably doing you're doing your degree, and then you're taking care of your siblings, or you're gonna delay some things because you're taking care of your siblings. And so I thought also about my mom, because she fought for her life before she passed. And when I wrote Banaban Tabi Singh, I just wanted other kids that are raising their siblings, because there are a lot of kids in South Africa and Africa that are raising their siblings, and they're never spoken about. We're never talking about them. And it's not that, it's good to write about your mothers and fathers. I see a lot of people write tributes to their mothers and their fathers, but we're not talking about the uncles, the aunts, the brothers and sisters that are taking care of their siblings. Yeah. So it was not just about Kamohelo le Manuku, but it was also about the other Kamohelos and the Manukus that are taking care of their siblings. So Baraban Tabiseng was about that, and I always find myself tearing up about that because they're so important to my life and my story. And I could have been in Lesotho right now, and I probably wouldn't be an artist because many of them are doctors and nurses. And when I said I want to be a musician, they were like, Joanne, So Banaban Tabiseng was an ode to my sisters, but also other, young people or people that are taking care of their siblings, aunts and uncles. This is their song. This is them feeling seen and loved. And the waters, Mama is me imagining my mom. And Metsi, for me, I'm a water baby. I'm a Scorpio, so we are water babies. So I always just imagine my mom with that, but it didn't. When I was writing the song, I was trying to think how like Mama Zhuang, but I was like, let me not write another one again about Mama. I think mourning my mom is still a process. So the waters was more of just imagining somebody saying, Itlakun, because I'm talking about forefathers, right? Forefathers could be my people, Bachubata. Listen to your forefathers and go to the waters. And the waters for me is always, the water rather is healing. It's cleansing. It's after taking a shower or a bath, you always feel like you've left whatever the day's problems away. So it was more of like incorporating the importance of listening to Bachubaba, our people, our forefathers. I think we've sort of forgotten to look back sometimes. And there's nothing wrong to move forward, but in the waters for me, it was more about going to the waters for the healing, for leaving everything behind, because we're angst, especially because post-COVID, there's a lot that's been happening to us, and I don't think we have taken the moment to post-COVID. It's just, okay, we're back, okay, we open, okay, So the waters was just that moment to say, I remember let's listen to our elders, but also let's think about healing forces. There can be water, there can be family, there can be aunts, there can be moms that help you sort of, there's a friend, there's an uncle, or somebody that you know that when you're having a bad day, if you die, talk to them, you'll be okay, right? Sure. So it's, how do I describe it? It's the waters, it's the people, trying to figure out how to describe that, but those two people do help you cleanse whatever's going on around you at that time. So those two songs mean that.
Wow.
Yeah. What a beautiful story, man. And I mean, maybe just a comment, like music is such an important tool for healing, and listening to your story, I feel like that's what it's done for you. And for many of us, I think there are many of us here who've lost loved ones, and we've got different events in our lives, but there's always that song, that just speaks to us. I don't know if there's anyone who would like to, share a story, about a particular song that has done something for them in terms of, healing. So if there's anyone here, you're more than welcome to raise your hand and tell us that story. It's a safe space. It really is a safe space.
It's a safe space, and an altar call is not following.
If you want to give your life.
Oh wow.
So yeah, it's just beautiful. Like I feel like from that story alone, when I go back and listen to that music again, it will bring new perspective, so it's really beautiful. So I want to go back to the education aspect of your journey. Many of us, discover that we're talented, and instantly we just want to go on stage, because we want to chase the fame, we want to get ourselves out there so that people can hear us. What do you think education or going to school to study a profession does, or did for you that it probably doesn't do for anyone else who is a musician who just decides, I want to sing, I want to start making music, I want to start making music from my bedroom, put beats together and, put out, what do you think were the benefits for you now looking back in hindsight?
Sure. Firstly, I do stress upon a lot of artists, or even if you're a free thinker, I do believe in education, and also if you're a person that listens. I mean, a great person that didn't finish or didn't study is Bokang Ramatlapeng that didn't, but he's teaching in a university, so I'm seeing that there are two benefits. But I think for me, what it's done, when I went to National School of the Arts, I finally understood that it's bigger than just the fact that I can sing. It was now putting me and packaging me into the business of music, right? And now it became a discipline, right? And once you get into the music department, I mean, I had classical and there was jazz. And the classical students, there's a completely different conversation that we're having with the classical students. It's there in the practice rooms from sun up to sundown, and they're absolutely serious. And the jazz musicians themselves, well, the instrumentalists. But for a vocalist point of view, when I got acquainted to Sis Omakuku, I realized that I need to be practicing, I need to clean, I need to be able to use my voice, not just as, oh, you sound beautiful, but it's now a technique. We need to work on how to fine-tune this talent. And so when I got there, it was a bit difficult, obviously, because, I mean, you want to be a free thinker. You just want to sing and the whole day, but it's about my posture. Oh, it's about my tone, how, my breathing, the things I eat. I mean, before it was never a thing until you find out that the things you eat will affect how you sing. Or also particular habits that are not good that will obviously affect how you perform. But also then how do you lead a bandstand? And so many things I did not know until I realized that, it's not just about the singing, but now you become a full musician. You learn how to read music. Yeah. Oh, you're composing. Oh, you are doing studio production, because I left there I became a producer. You become a producer. You can be film scorer. You become it's a multidiscipline. So you realize that now you can use your gifts widely. And not just in one particular, thing. So for me, when I got there, I was like, wow. And then they're moving you to performing at theaters. Then you realize that, you're now getting acquainted to venues, how to conduct yourself in those venues, stage etiquette. You learn about the audience that you're also surrounded, and what happens if you have a good audience, if you have a bad audience. So there were so many things that you learn in that space. And for me, those years being there, I got to be able to perform on stage and how to conduct myself on stage, how to work with other musicians, which is a thing, because you're not just a star. Yeah. You can't just focus on just being, I just want to be a star. Okay, what does what does it mean to, I never even thought about the star element, because that was literally the last thing. Are you putting in the work? Yeah. And the work was, are you practicing? How do you practice? When do you practice? And also finding the people to help you take out this talent, which is who's on your bandstand, which is something many people don't, think about until you get into the profession, right? And so I think education, I don't even think I want to stress upon any artist, even, I'm not saying that even if you learned on the street or you learned from where you learned from, it's also good enough, but it does help. And I think over the years, I've also gotten to appreciate the lessons I've learned, even leaving the spaces of education, because it's actually helped me articulate myself the best way I can. Unlike just saying, it's like, this is it. This is how I'm going to conduct my craft, and the precision, right? And the artist I want to work with. I'm intentional about what I'm saying, how I'm saying it, why I'm saying it. So it's been very important, and it is important for me to think that, going to school has helped me become who I am currently. And yeah, so much to say about that.
Yeah,
but,
that's really good.
Yes.
Do we have a question from the floor? A comment? Anyone? Oh, there we go.
Good evening. My name is Lizo.
Hi, Lizo.
Mine is not really a comment. I'm actually interested in to know what your opinion is. I heard you speaking earlier about the more technical side of music. Many who don't study music don't know that there's things you learn, like stage presence, projection, things that are not fun. But I think more and more today's world, we live in a global in a global market, and I've seen less and less of a need, or less and less of an influence of having to study music to become a musician or a celebrated artist. What's your relationship with having studied music to seeing people now coming in and just playing things digitally and don't have your background, the studying? Is it still a necessity, do you think, to be successful, to have to undergo that? Like I said, because nowadays you can actually literally bypass all of that. So what's your, having done all of that, do you still think it's a need in today's world?
I think I've seen a lot of, that's why I mentioned firstly, I said Babkai Mahlangu is such a great example of someone that did not, study. There's another bass player called Carlo Mameli, an incredible bass player that is currently teaching at Witwatersrand, and he doesn't have a diploma. But I see the pros and cons of that, but I still see the need. And why I'll say this, there's still a shortage of African music scholars in this continent alone. So it is our absolute necessity as an African child to find ourselves in those spaces, because they're writing our stories. How can we allow that to happen as African scholars? I mean, someone that is that I'm glad that we are celebrating is Mam Matosini. Why are we not in textbooks? How do we, especially because I when I was studying, I used to get frustrated when we used to do music history, because the music history textbooks would be so limited because they're not people writing about us, or even people that are in those educational spaces. There's a lot of, and I don't want to sound controversial in this, but there's a lot of white music scholars that are teaching African music to me. And I found myself very, it's like, oh, okay. And you can hear that there's things that are missing or things that are not right. So I see it in the performance element. I think you can get away with the performance element to not be able to study, right? That's fine. I think I can make peace with that, because there's incredible performers like Sis Tandi Somazwai that did a political science degree, but she's an incredible performer, an incredible storyteller. But that's the performance element of it. But what I'm stressing upon is being the scholar, the thinker. And there's not a lot of people that are taking that journey. And so when I find myself in those educational spaces, I'd get frustrated. Why is Sis Mira Makeba just 4 pages of the music history textbook? Why is Sis, I think for me, Mambusi Mhlongo should be a textbook, African music textbook. Zimngcawana should be in an African jazz textbook. His music should be studied in a 3rd year level at some point, and his pieces should be in instead of Charlie Parker's and all these jazz musicians that are incredible, jazz musicians. Why are they not written in our textbooks, and why are we not learning about them? So I still think it is important. We can't hold on to Dr. Makatini. We can't. He cannot just be the only one, that is, he can't just be the only one that's taking that road. There needs to be many more that one day, hopefully I'm Dr. Ramatlapeng, and I'm talking about the importance of African music voice, and I'm taking the techniques of Mambusi Mhlongo or Madosi, whoever, like Msaki has taken that part, but it's only just outside. It's not written in a book. We're not archiving our work. So it must be scholar level, because now they do take us up there. They're like, okay, so you're talking so much, but where's the book? Where's the research? And that's why I think it is still important that we should study, and not just for the music, the performance element. It's great, it's fantastic. But to teach, why do we have such a shortage of African teachers, South African teachers? Most of my teachers in high school were white. And jazz music was protest music. It's protest music, right? So yes, for me, it's still absolutely mandatory that I'm pursuing mine and I'm going to finish mine. And I need it to be done because I realize that it is important that we need to put ourselves in those spaces. So yeah, absolutely.
Can we clap for that?
Hello.
The first question I want to ask you, because I'm listening, I'm looking, and I'm processing, and I'm hearing a thought leader. Have you thought much about being a thought leader in as far as music is concerned? Not in terms of it being scholarly or it being street or it being about talent, but just really packaging it holistically for the world to be able to consume it. Writing books is one way, but obviously, right now we are in the age of digital consumption. So, have you ever thought about positioning thought leadership about music across different genres? And the reason I'm asking this, I think you do very well in it. That's question one. It's almost a comment and a question. And what sort of themes would you focus on? Because I think it's something you've really applied your mind a lot to. Thought leadership done. Question two.
There's more.
It's a personal view, and if you do agree with it, then you will answer the question. But I think, as an African people, especially when you spoke a lot about how music becomes a healing tool, a cleansing tool, I find that we only speak about it from a wellness. I want to be fine, I want to have my sanity, I want to have my peace. But we never speak about it in terms of how it restores us as human beings to participate in the economy. Because if you're stressed, how do you become productive at work? If you're not vibrating correctly, how do you add positively to the people around you? And how do you actively participate in the concept ya go bopa batho le go bopa lefase, you know? So I just want you to also, it might be a spur of a moment thing, but reflect a bit on what you think the role of music in aligning people and helping us participate effectively in the economy and in productivity in whatever spaces and industry we find ourselves in should be or is. I'll stop there. Cool.
Wow. It is. Sure. Firstly, incredible. Good question. I just wanted to repeat what you just said when you're saying the first question. Have I ever thought about being a thought leader? I haven't thought about that yet. I think, you constantly just like, that artist is just always just thinking about the music. Then you forget that you're actually thinking, while you creating, you actually revealing yourself and revealing your thoughts. So when you are picking up from those things, I'm not realizing that you are hearing that or you're listening to that and reflecting what I'm saying. Because we just always just like, oh, I'm in the studio. Oh, hey, I'm writing. So I really will start thinking about that and realizing that it's bigger than just the songs itself. Because I do read about our people and what's happening. And ha ke re people ke re batho rona, I don't really want to focus only just on that, but make it an absolute global thing because we all affected, and I mean batho meaning rona, us, globally. So I mean the story could just absolutely be universal. So I think I want to be able to be honest with you and say I'm willing to look into it. And I thank you for that. And the last question, sure. You've got me thinking about a lot of things today, because I'm just always just finding myself just using one medium of expression, which is music only. So now you've given me a different way of expressing myself, which is what you're bringing up right now. And now I thank you for allowing me to think about that, because I used to have something that was like that was called Her Own Skin series, and it was highlighting young women that are coming into the industry, they do not know the plights and the problems that come about with being a young vocalist or young musician in the industry, and we find ourselves being alone, and then you fall into particular traps that if you had that older sister in the industry, say, hey, Skayamo. So I found myself trying to do that. It didn't necessarily work at that time, but now you taking me to that, and I think I've been called out. I thank you for that. Thank you.
If I can just add, to that line of thought.
Oh, is that my question?
Oh, there's a okay.
Noted.
But let me just add
Of course.
quickly. I'm losing my train of thought. But if I can just add to that, jazz can be seen as quite elitist by a lot of the masses.
Yes.
But that's not the nature of jazz, right?
No.
And just linking to that thought leadership, how do we convey this music and transport it as what it really is, as opposed to whatever
Politics.
politics and the view of it should be. And it's quite interesting that, just on education, you mentioned Taniso Mazwai studying political sciences, and I think education in all forms is actually quite crucial because we all have different roles to play.
Yes.
And you can hear that in her music.
Yes.
And how it connects to different people.
Yes.
So how do, in general, looking at jazz, connect to the masses, as opposed to us sitting in this room, having an intellectual debate about jazz?
Well, with what you're asking, I will speak for myself. I want to be honest about my positioning of how I would like to connect to the masses, because I think with the songs I've taken out, my connection to the people I'm trying to connect with is more about family, loss. And so I think I want to be able to be relatable, not just because it's jazz music, but also want to relate from a human. I'm a human. I think Ndate Quincy Jones, rest in peace, he talked about that when we are creating, we are trying to give a human experience away from just the sound. So the main thing I'm trying to do is to be showing you a human experience using the sound that I happen to just love and I studied to convey that. So even becoming a jazz elitist is a very problematic thing, because then it's like you've put yourself in a corner and you can only exist there. But you're human and you coexist with everyone. So how do you put yourself in a box and just say, this is the only way this is the only place I'm at, and then you can exist there? Means that you're not coexisting with everybody. And the main thing I'm trying to do is I'm trying to coexist with sound, with the music. That's just all I'm trying to do. My medium of communication would probably just be the fact that I can sing and the stories I'm telling, but I'm just trying to give you a human experience, but using the art form, or just the genre, jazz, right? So I think, I hope I answered that fully, and explained it. I don't know, I find it very problematic. Just hearing jazz elitists, young. Because also with that, I call them the jazz police. Because because I've experienced that painfully so. And coming up as a young musician, I found myself feeling inadequate because of the word jazz elite. Some people say, but I heard some neo soul sounds, but I said, I'm human. I listen to everything. And mentioning Sis Tandiswa shows you that Sis Tandiswa has put herself in an absolute global, she's giving you it's a human experience. And that's literally what jazz was supposed to be like. Because it's protest music. Educate, correct, show the problems that are happening right now and currently. Nina Simone did say, your job on this earth as an artist, it's a job, by the way. And it's a calling, by the way. So if you're not realizing, hey, you forget about jazz leads and hey, I'm a jazz police. Hey, let's look at the work itself and how do we heal? How do we correct? How do we educate? How do we, soothe? It's so much, so let's leave those politics.
I think we had a question from Mwako. Noted as well.
Yes, the diaphragm.
My name is Mwaku, host of the K-Jazz Show. I think I want to reflect on some of the conversations that you and I have had previously, and this was to highlight the importance of female artists not being seen as just chanteuses, particularly, in music today. Women have come out and played instruments, like, for example, Sia Makuzeni, for instance. How, or what are your thoughts? And I think, because I know what your thoughts are, maybe let's just reflect, with the room.
Yes.
Your thoughts on the importance of women to be able to play several roles apart from being a producer, being a vocalist, but also being an instrumentalist, particularly, in the jazz space.
Sure.
I listen on the radio.
Firstly, hi, Mata. Sure, I'm an avid believer that almost every female should play some sort of instrument. I've picked up, it's a gadget, but it's an instrument. It's seen as an instrument. It's called a vocal processor. And so I was inspired by Usis Siama Kuzeni. I mean, it's unfortunate that most female musicians, when I came up, they all first didn't even ask me. They're like, we know you're a vocalist, and that was problematic to see how some girl was like, hey, I'm not a vocalist, I play violin, right? And I know that Sikho's in the room. I'm sure she can say a lot about how if you told anybody that you play a piano, you play double bass, and you're a female musician, that it would always just seem like it's some, wow, oh my gosh, it's not a surprise, it shouldn't be a surprise. And so I still think it would be cool to see more females on the bandstands holding instruments, and open spaces for that, and let it just not even be that female instrumentalist is such a problematic word for me, because then it boxes you into just that. And since Tandi Nduli has broken that seal. She's broken it for many pianists. And I think, I still think that there's still a bit of a, I don't know how to describe it, but we still have a long way to go with that. And I can't even comment about it in length because the conversations are not many. Or let's just say conversations out loud. Maybe we're talking about it amongst ourselves and the communities that we're in. But it would be great to see that happen and to make it in reality. We can't have our steps that only playing bass. Our steps that cannot just be the only one, honestly, right? There's like, so I'm still curious to see that because I've put myself in learning piano. It's been tough, it's been difficult, it's been annoying to do it because it shows that it's a different type of discipline altogether, but I've seen the importance of expressing myself not just in this comfortable zone of me, I'm a singer, it's comfortable. I wanted to try and break the boundary if I could with just, using other instruments to express myself. So I think there's a lot more to dive and talk about that, but I think so far the journey is still, we still have a long way to go. I mean, yeah, so I don't want to get into the politics about it because so yeah, there's a question.
On my left, but I didn't see the hand. So if there was someone who did raise their hand, but I did not see them, please raise it again so that I'm aware of you. All right, so we've got one there, 2, 4 hands. Lovely. I think maybe we can start.
Awesome.
there.
Hello, my name is Bonolo. Thank you for the beautiful conversation so far. I think bearing your soul and just the transparency around your journey has been incredibly refreshing. Can you all hear me? Yeah, Diva. Okay. I think 2 things on my side. There was a really beautiful conversation about thought leadership earlier on, but also reflecting on the fact that as blacks we don't need permission to be thought leaders, especially if we're thinking about decoloniality and decolonizing ways of education and knowledge production and contributing to that. We also need to create our own frameworks, our own systems, and our own platforms to be able to archive our work. So, I mean, you don't have to have the solution to that now, but I'm just thinking about the fact that we might not necessarily get invited to the rooms and the institutions. So, what does it look like to create our own? So, maybe that's one thought. And I'm sure that this is already happening within the spaces and the conversations and the discourse that you're already part of.
Yes.
That we don't need permission and we don't need to replicate or to fight to be part of some of the institutions that weren't necessarily created by us for us,
Yeah.
and therefore weren't necessarily archive and tell our story the way it needs to be told and the way that we can tell it. So maybe we need to give ourselves permission to reimagine what that looks like, right? And to inspire generations to reimagine what that looks like, because I also think sometimes the barrier to entry can be a deterrent, that I need a PhD, I needed this, I needed that. But what does knowledge look like that is embedded in experience, that's embedded in culture, spirituality, which are all valid forms of experience and knowledge, right? And knowledge production. So that's maybe a reflection that I'm thinking about based on the conversation that's happened in part A of tonight. And then the second part, I think you asked a question about healing and music and how it can heal and the role that music can play in that. And I think there's two things that you mentioned earlier on about your message. And I think that sometimes maybe it can feel daunting to be the conduit of the message that you need to express at the time because of so many variables, music, popularity, all of that, right? Like there's just so many variables that you're juggling as an artist.
Yeah.
And perhaps now to the question, the actual question, I think maybe if you can share a little bit about what does it look like for you to stay true to the message that your people have asked you to convey for the times. So maybe touching on spirituality, because I also feel this music is spiritual. And so how does that enable you to stay true to that which you're here to do? Because they give, but they can also take.
Sure.
And we also need to honor the message that we've been tasked to deliver. What does that look like for you? And I'm sure it's not straightforward, right? Because there's like economics, politics of the stomach, and you're just thinking about so many things and what you need to do and what you need to produce at that point in time. But the message is the message. And what you're here to deliver is what you're here to deliver. And of course it changes and evolves over time, but it must still be done. So what does it look like for you to stay true to that and to tap into it, whatever that source looks like for you?
After a glass of wine,
Sure.
eh?
Wow. Can I answer that?
Yeah, sure.
Firstly, hello, Bonolo. How are you? Beautiful. Well, just there's a lot to take from that, and I'm really just gonna think about the first question, the first, remarks that you had. The second question you asked was, how do I stay true to my message, and also touching on to spirituality, right? I think staying true to my message is also just like, for me, I don't know if it will make sense to other artists, is to like, I'm learning to currently shut down the noise. And because there's so many other people like myself that are artists, that are singers, that we're all sort of in the same line of healing and inspiring and educating, but we find ourselves now finding you comparing yourself to this other person, and then that message becomes your message. But so I've found, I'm being honest with you, that I've found myself just hopping onto another person's message and trying to make it my own, because I'm obviously trying to mimic the people I'm inspired by. But currently where I am, where Bokang is in trying to be true to herself, I've shut down the noise, and I have to be honest, I've stopped listening to a lot of artists that I've mimicked or been inspired by, because I found myself trying to write the same messages, but I realized we're not the same people.
and we don't have the same experiences. And that's how I came about with Bana Bantabiseng, because I said, you know, many people are talking about other people and their experience. I haven't written about my experience, but I've been wanting to mimic the people that were writing experiences about. I'm not them, I'm myself. So I think it's more of a self-introspection. And so staying true is for me, it's been shutting down the noise, dealing with particular insecurities, because sometimes you can't relay your message when you are really insecure about yourself. And I found myself asking myself, what am I? And I called one of my sisters this week and I said, I'm coming here and I almost sometimes feel like a fraud. Like, are they going to think, what am I? Who am I? How do I, relate with these people? But then now that I'm sitting with you and you're asking me this question, I've realized what I've been doing this year, 2024, is shutting down the noise and trying to figure out how do I respect the spiritual element. Is the gift that I've been given is a gift. And so I need to stay quiet. I need to do an introspection. Or maybe a song will come to me in a dream, or in that moment that I'm co-creating with whoever I am, and that's me being obedient in that moment. Then it's introspection. And then that's when, obviously, me being true to myself, I'm able to then relay a message, because now you're hearing about me through a song or through a message. And that's why, for example, those two songs, when I explained, that's the truth. It's me. That's it. There's nothing else I can't lie about that. Because obviously, even how I respond to when I sing the song, you see me cry, or I'm like, oh, because it's familiar and it's true. So how I stay true currently for myself, because before, I will be honest, I was trying to be on the same journey as the people I loved and I looked up to, but I said that's just not me. So the main thing is introspection and being obedient to this calling, and understanding that Mudimu ungfile neo e not just for myself, and so the truth is mandatory as an artist. It is mandatory. It's not, you can't play with that. And that's why we have prolific artists in here, because they told the truth, nothing but that truth. So it's that for me currently. It's shutting down the noise. It's sitting with myself. I've been going through quite a lot this year. So I sat with that and I had to say, okay, Mujimu, what you're saying currently is Dima, switch off. How are we being truthful? How are we telling the story? How are we healing? What's this gift? What am I doing with this gift? It's not just for popularity. And I always say to people, the hype is not my ministry. I'm not a part of that. Even if it comes, I'm obedient to that. And if and the responses are beautiful, but I take those responses as maybe you had to sit with something and deal with it at that moment and heal from it. And I'm glad that you're going to leave it at that performance and go home and say, I dealt with that Moleko Bokang show, and we're moving on to something else. And you'll heal at the Zoe show, at a Taniswa show, because you're healing there, right?
Wonderful. I noticed a hand. Are we here? Okay. All right, cool. So just for the sake of time, let's keep our questions as brief as possible. Please, thank you. I think we have until 9:30, which is in 7 minutes. And she still has to perform for us.
Oh, yes. Evening, my name is Amani. I wanted to find out, as an artist, I work with a lot of upcoming artists, and one of the few problems, I can't say it's a problem, but things that I experience is when it comes to you as an artist and you wanting to be authentically yourself and not wanting to change and having to perform covers, because obviously depending on the job, how do you feel as an artist in performing covers? Do you think that takes you away? Because as someone who's behind the scenes, I personally don't think it takes who you are, but the God-given talent that God has given you. And whether you are singing a Thandiswa Mazwai song or you sing a Bokang song, if you are, that this is your gift and this is who you are, it stays and it resonates with everybody. doesn't matter what you're performing. What's your take when it comes to that? Do you really think covers take away from who the artist is? Or do you have to go through that journey in the beginning for people to know you? Because most of the time, the reasoning you behind singing covers is to get that relatability with people, that they know the songs and they can sing along and they get to know you better. That's one question. And the second one, I just want to find out with regards to performing as an artist and being paid. You know, we go through a lot of favors, and people want you to do a favor because you know I'm struggling in this thing, and how do you work around that part of the industry where you feel that I need to charge for this particular job, and how do you go about, and do you not think we need to create workshops or spaces where we are training artists and everybody to stop the free gig process?
Exposure gigs.
Yeah, because I feel that is the reasoning why artists are dying is because of this many free gigs. You can perform in one place free 5 times, but they keep calling you, so they can see you're good at the craft and they love your music, but they still don't see the value in paying you. Should we not have spaces that can make this stringent and rule that there needs to be a minimum figure or something that comes out that is, what's your take on that?
Sure.
Firstly, hello, how are you? This is why for me school was the thing, covers. When I got to school, we are singing jazz standards, songs that were written by other artists. And I'm going to sing 3 songs. I'm going to sing a ballad, a bossa, or swing. And it's not my song, but it's teaching me how I'm taking from this person's inspiration. I think it's important to pay homage to the artists that wrote those songs, their reasons why they wrote those songs, and we need to keep them alive through song. And it's good to sing covers, I think, because you get to understand that artist's story, but also you're learning some very technical elements, musically speaking, rather. It depends, you know. But I was a cover girl at some point, but I never posted them. But I do appreciate covering songs because I learned about those people. It never just became about me. And it's just about me, and I'm Bokang Ramatlapeng. I'm just gonna write my own music. I had to sing a Miriam Makeba song to understand why my Miriam is so important. I had to sing a Nina Simone cover and understand why Mam Nina had to write, you know, those particular songs, or why I had to sing a John Coltrane song and understand at that time what it means for him to take, why did he write Resolution, and what was so it's to appreciate the people that were there before us and to keep their music alive, because that music can't die. We cannot allow that to even happen. Let's sing Brenda Fassie's Weekend Special forever until we die, if it's possible. It is important that we can to remember her, because if we never sang the covers, would we remember the artists? We would never. So I love that artists do. It helped me figure out my sound, because at some point I was obsessed with Sis Tandiswa and Zoe and so many people at some point, but then eventually it obviously comes off you, because then you're like figuring out yourself and then you find yourself. But it helped me a lot to be inspired by them, their work, how they think, how do they create, who are they co-creators, because they also have people in the bandstand, and it inspired the sound that I could say I'm producing currently. So yes. Last question, I think you are on the right track with thinking like that. I've been struggling. I've been doing so many exposure gigs for the past 4 years, and I'm like, how many times am I going to be exposed? I think I am exposed at this point. So I think there's a long way to go, because even the arts and culture department, that's a chat. It should be a chat, because some of us have been working in the industry. There's few people in this room that have been working for 15 years, close to 20 years in the industry, but we're still getting some particular amount in exposure gigs. I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, but I am currently an award-winning musician and a Basadi in Music Award nominee, but I'm still being offered exposure gigs. It's a conversation, even workshops at this point, there's lengthy music business expos
that are currently doing that, but it's not necessarily being put into the economy. Artists are going to continue to die because our departments are looking at artists as just a pure thing as entertainment. We're not dancing just for that. So I think but I think you're on the right, oh, okay. I think you're on the right track to ask that question. And I'm speaking from a person that's in this particular experience where I'm still currently, I got one 3 weeks ago, actually. And I was like, oh, okay, so it's still a chat. I feel like there needs to be a thing, a red card, and it's like, this is it. It's a final thing. If you've won 2 awards, you need to be getting 10,000 and up, or even it's not. I've been hoping for that. I've given people my red card. They're like, ish, yeah, oh, eh. And so it's also got to do with the people that are hiring us, the event organizers that are constantly saying, don't you want to drop it lower? And so we find ourselves compromising, and then it's free because we want to be exposed. We want to share. We always take up opportunities to want to share our gifts because also, it is. You want to take it out. So there's a long way to go, and it needs to be a conversation with the arts and culture, and also it needs to become a thing in the economy where artists are not just people that are entertaining people, but we are a part of the business. We are, I don't know how to describe it, but I'm just a part, I'm also part of the business world. Include me in that conversation and put me in that conversation and make sure that I'm being paid for my time, but also the things I bring to the table with expertise and, okay, the awards, yes, but the expertise and the craft, absolutely. Let's take care of our people. So, yeah.
Can I also just add sort of a different spin to this conversation? Also, myself as an artist, the conversation about free gigs, it's a very tricky one because sometimes value is not always measured in monetary terms.
Yeah.
There are opportunities. I think what we need to do as artists is to really be able to analyze and assess an opportunity for its value. It doesn't have to be monetary value. If it really provides value to your brand, I think it's okay, to give your services for free. Yeah. I mean, Super Bowl, the NFL Super Bowl, 90% of the artists, some of the biggest, Rihanna and all those guys, they don't get paid to do that performance, that halftime. Yeah. It's for exposure, because as soon as they perform, like, it does something for their brand. Next thing they're trending for. Absolutely. 15 weeks and their what do you call this, streaming numbers go up, and they make money. So we have to understand the value chain, before we make that decision. When someone says you'll have good exposure, you have to ask the right questions. Who will be there? Where is this going to be shown? So if we ask the correct questions, then we can make the decision of whether or not we want to do it for free.
No, it's fine. No, that's great. Just before we move on from this point, sorry. So I mean, this is quite an interesting one, and I think another important element. So I don't like that Super Bowl argument because they can actually afford to pay. I think there's also an affordability question that needs to be had to say, how much can you? But just to ask you a question, I mean, I've seen some really great artists perform at places that pay them well, but don't respect the art. Yeah. And then the following day, go to a place where the art is really appreciated, but they're not paid. How do you balance that? Do you, and I won't mention the events, but you go there, no one is listening, it's background music. You've got a whole PhD, it's just chats and giggles. So how do you balance that between feeding your soul and feeding your pocket?
So I have to be honest, I've done so many gigs like that. And I mean, we all chat as artists. Be like, give a fela send you. And many of them are honest like that. But chop, and right? But then it is heartbreaking to go to the spaces where the whole jazz community is there, Mara, you're not being even compensated for that. But I mean, I found myself being okay at that moment and saying, oh, at least I left there feeling good, and I met people that loved me at that moment, and no monetary value will even make me it won't even lose the value from what I felt at that moment. But sometimes, yes, I do leave like, oh, this could have been at least beneficial. But we know they're corporate gigs. I mean, many musicians in this room have done corporate gigs at particular places, and nobody listened to you, nobody cared. But you are playing the most incredible solos. Everything is burning. But we felt like it. Marketing likes to call it a ritual. It was a ritual for us. You know, it was good for us. Hey, it was good. Love you. Bye bye. And we go home. We made our cents. Yes, it was good money. But at that moment, it was just about us. We took it as it was about us that moment.
No, that's fantastic. No, there's another question. One more question at the back, yeah.
Hello everyone. So I'm from Women in Music.
Sorry, guys.
So my question, I've got a comment and a question, right? So my comment would be on Musim Hlongo, right? She speaks so well about her, and she had 4 albums with one particular problem, which is owning her masters, right? So when it comes to the educational part, when it comes to knowing your right and continuing her legacy till now, till this day, you know, I think it's an important thing. And please carry on speaking about that, carry on telling its truth on the importance of literacy, education in whatever form, especially when it comes to the music, because you make a banger now, that banger is supposed to last you until your grandmother at best, you know what I mean? So it's that knowledge to say, okay, cool, this is what you need to learn, so forth. And then my next question is to you, when you speak of, you know, your song, Manabanta sing, and you look at Ipindomi, when there's a song, I'm not sure where's the album, but there's a song where the author talks about, it's called Nadia, and he talks about that, yo, Nadia, look, I'm leaving you because you can see we're in apartheid, dog, and I have to go and work, and I might die. So please take care of my kids. You know what I mean? If I die, can you do that for me? And songs like that usually bring a lot of healing within the situation. So I want to find out what sort of healing, you know, did you find after, you know, losing your mom, and then after those so many years being able to write to her still, and then what healing do you find, especially at that age? There's a difference between writing a song when you are young and losing your parent, and then there's a new healing also that comes at a particular age. So for me, I want to ask about that healing. What healing came after, you know, writing the lyrics, and what healing is there within the music space, you know? That's what I want to know.
Thank you. Firstly, owning your masters is, you know, it's a topic that can be dissected for the whole night, and this is why music business workshops are important. I think every artist must attend. And I'm currently studying at school, and I'm doing music business, and it's given me a different perspective of how I've just ignored other things. Mambusi Mhlogo, in her particular situation, is at that moment, education was very limited, especially for African musicians. Distribution rights and all these things that come with contracts and all I think it's still a conversation that we are ignoring because we're just focusing on the performance. And I think in this particular moment for myself, I've made it a point to, every time I do anything, I ask for a contract, I ask for proof, so I'm speaking for myself, because I think there's so many examples, like the Sahara situation. That's a big conversation that we could talk about all day, about how this particular individual find herself in this particular situation, right? And I'm being honest with you, I'm learning about that world. And I would love to speak about it lengthily, but I'm making myself a student of the music business world, because I'm always just obsessed about just the music and being in the studio, but I'm forgetting about this other very important thing. So with that, I really want to be honest with you, and I'm still a student, and I'm willing to. One day when I'm able to talk about it, I will, because I'm still a student. And yeah. The second question: how did I find healing? I think I stopped crying about losing my mom. You know, you just cry and cry and cry, because growing up without parents is a different conversation altogether. There's no parent at all. I'm being raised by somewhat age mates. My sisters were teens when I was born, so we're almost not the same, but we're millennials. So it was difficult. So at some point I stopped complaining and say "Hakina batswadi," because it was always a thing. I'd feel sorry for myself. So I stopped feeling sorry for myself, and I started making peace with the fact that she's not here, and that this is what I'm left with. And I got to appreciate them more. I'm not saying I never appreciated my sisters, but the older I got, I started seeing the absolute value. And then the healing obviously became, because I was like, hulukile, mama's gone, but kamohelo le manuku ba ntekane, they're just enough for me right now until I leave this earth. So the healing became there when I looked at my sisters and said, ba ntekane, they are just enough for me. They are my mother and they are my father. They are my uncle. They are. So the healing was that, just getting to a point where I've stopped crying, because I was 6. I mean, I couldn't understand the concept of death at that time. But obviously the older you get, you do. And I see the absence, I felt the absence, but I stopped feeling the absence and I stopped crying, and I realized that my sisters were just enough for me at that moment, and that's how I got to writing the song.
There was a question at the back already, sorry. And, unless the gentleman is willing to give you his question.
Okay, so we had a hand at the back, but because
Do you
my
still have
brother
a hand?
had a question,
Okay, then
maybe
you
we
can,
can.
you can take the question. Oh, someone else.
Who lifted their hand first? Was it you, or was it?
Both of us, actually.
Was it both of you?
Okay,
Okay, maybe let's.
two last questions. Yeah, 2 last questions.
I think there's something very strong that's happening in the room about healing and grief and all of that. Funny enough, we spoke about it when we're in the dressing room, and Bonolo touched base on that. And I think maybe that's what, I don't know, it's almost like this is not a coincidence, right? I lost my mom in June, like this year. And, and I remember when I heard the news, it was on a Sunday, and you know the call that you don't want to get. And I remember saying to my mom, please don't let me grieve you to the point of despair, because you know the state that you left me in, right? And I don't have a big family at home, and so how the whole music thing happened for me, I'm a jazz selector. I felt like I was not given a choice, and I like the fact that you touch based on we're not doing this to be cool, right? And we're not touch based on sometimes you find yourself being you need the healing, but in the music itself you find the healing, and I think that's what's been happening for me, because I didn't know what was going to happen after losing my mom. I thought I was literally going to lose my mind. But by the grace of God, I'm still standing. And I think Sabela was touching base on what's that song that keeps you going. And I remember when we were preparing the burial at home, there was that song from Joy Celebration. You touch based on your sisters are enough for you. You know that your mom is not around. And I was just thinking to myself, I'm so grateful for the friends that I have, because Pangtikan, just even this is God saying, brah, I got your back, because like surviving grief and loss is not child's play. Some people have died from that, just grieving a marriage, grieving a job, not even a person. People lose their minds. So I think there's a strong spirit that's in the room, at which we come with, and now it makes so much sense why we are talking about the same thing. And I think also I just want to say, that whatever healing that you still have left, God is with you, and you just an amazing artist.
Yeah.
Not only are you an amazing artist, you're a teleporter, you help people to heal, and that's what's been happening today. So thank you so much for sharing.
That's beautiful. That's so wonderful. Our last question.
Mine is going to be quick, I promise.
The ones that promise ask the longest questions.
No. So you spoke about how you grew up in a household that had a lot of music and a lot of Nina Simone, whatever. And same with me, my grandmother loves Nina Simone, which means I also love Nina Simone. So my question is just, what's your favorite Nina Simone song? I know it's a horrible question to ask because it's so tough. But what's your favorite Nina Simone song?
I've got
Actually,
that's tough. My favorite song is "Here Comes the Sun" and "Mr. Bojangles." Well, "Here Comes the Sun" just almost made it because I mean she's talking about "Here Comes the Sun" and she's trying to give hope at a very dark time in America, right? So when I heard it, I was like, "Wow, Nina, you really trying to make people feel good at this present time? Are you okay?" But I think she's just trying to make us feel like, "Khulukile, man." I mean, we've heard Sister Nusa's song "Gulungile." "Here Comes the Sun" has that, you know. So I was listening to that when I heard that quite a lot. I still love that song. And she's like, "Hey guys," because we're going through quite a tough time losing our mom. So it was those songs were just that. So "Here Comes the Sun" was my favorite. But also like Mr. Bojangles. The reason why I liked it was because she used to talk about men quite interesting. Nina had some things to say about them brothers, but but I liked just her sass. So that song has a lot of sass. But "Here Comes the Sun" always made me feel like everything, it's alright. I mean, she says that eventually. And in that time, didn't feel alright, but it felt alright when you listened to her. So, yeah.
For sure. Before we close, I think, and I know you want to close.
I don't want to close. I just want people to eat.
Okay. Just one question around what can we expect, future projects, what are your plans, how do you see your music evolving further, what should we watch out for?
Firstly, it's an absolute truth that I am releasing my first album. And my friend Nwako has been saying it's been 3 years in the making. It is really 3 years in the making. But I am putting myself towards myself. So definitely 2025 is that year to do that. The thought process around it is talking about matriarchs and families, which I've already highlighted that. And also just traditions, identity, being being a post-apartheid child is a topic on its own because we're fighting different struggles currently. So that's really where I'm at because I've been in experience of what post-apartheid governments have done to me, and it's going to come out in the music. Unfortunately, and I'm not trying to make it a dark thing. Also, there's been incredible things that have happened. But as I spoke to, Bonolo said truth, right? So it's going to become that. It's seeped into that. And I don't also want to make it absolutely too political. There is still some, love. I mean, love is a topic that we all want to talk about. So that's definitely where I'm at with the new album. I don't have a title yet, but I do have an idea that it's absolutely, got to do with being African. I think I'm still on that journey. I want to be able to know what's going on in every country in this continent because I've just been South African. I feel like it's a problem sometimes because I feel like my knowledge is so limited. So that's also that. It's an importance. I'm in love with Omo Sangara from Mali, and so I want to understand what's going on, So yes, it's that. And what's also next is, I don't even know yet, but the album is absolutely next. And then hey? Oh, and I do expect you. And today is his birthday. We are celebrating an incredible, political stalwart, and I think he's forgotten in history. We've got a topic. It's a conversation about that. Bob Sobukwe is so important. I mean, he was jailed. He was put on Robert alone. That means he was incredibly daring, and they couldn't even kill him because they knew it would be a problem for the whole of South Africa. So you know that, right? So I'm glad that Umanyana Jazz, an incredible person that's organizing the Zukisa White. So I'm performing rather, I can see there's some of my co-musicians that are performing on Saturday, celebrating Date Robert Sebukwe's 100th birthday. But not only just that, it's just celebrating Black excellence. What it means to be African, just Black pride, man. I don't know if that makes sense, because we really have those days in South Africa to just celebrate just being Black and amazing. Young, gifted, and Black is rather what I would like to say. So I'm excited for that this Saturday. And Sunday, it's a 2-day festival. Oh, Zapatala. So it's so I don't know about the finer details, but you can get tickets at skybookings.com. It's not free. Oh, but there is one at Constitution Hill. Do you educate yourself about this incredible man? I feel like we don't even know what he sounds like, and I'm hurt about that. I'm sore actually about it because how? Yeah. So yes, that's what's next, and yeah, that's it.
Just last question from me. You're speaking about your new album and.
Sabelo, there's no time.
Oh, it's a quick question. It's a very quick question. I promise you. I grew up in the CD era where you would open the CD sleeve and see who's played the piano and who you're working with. Who are you working with in this album? Who are you collaborating with, and what was the thought behind that?
Okay. So far, my co-creators is Mosan Tlapo, Kekeletso Masebola. I'm really hoping to get Osisiama Kuzeni on it. It's a dream. Yes. But so far, yes, I am. But it's Mosan Tlapo, it's KK Masemola. Absolutely. So I'm just looking into the young creators that are coming up. I love all my like the older people that came before me, but I'm really interested about the people that are really coming up. So far it's just them for now. I am in 4 tracks in. So let's thank you. Right? Yeah. Yeah, so those are so far. Musa Nhlapo is the producer of this album. He's known as MMK if many people know him. MMK, yes, that's his other name. So, but I call him Musa Nhlapo because, yeah, yeah, he's seen too. Yeah, all right, yeah. So, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Beautiful. Let's see, I don't know, eh? I don't know how we're gonna work this out. The food and the conversation. I really like it. I think it works. I just think we need to find a way where we balance the whole thing, and we take like good little breaks to have like warm food. But the vibes are good, so I think no one's going to be upset. If you want a microwave, we can sort you out. But what you have in front of you is Namale Papa, which is really just like an ode to Bokang and her journey and what she grew up with. Maybe the meat went to sort of private school because that's a ribeye in front of you. But Olale Mabele or Papa Mabele. And that was her thing, and we thought it'd be good to bring it to the fore. And so we've paired that with the beautiful red from Waterford. And I hope you enjoy it, whatever the temperature is. I'm always concerned about like these small little things, and sometimes they don't matter. But I think it's been a beautiful story that we've tried to tell of your life and sort of the stuff you grew up with. And I hope you recognize that we put some effort into it. I went and bought a new chef jacket. I haven't worn one in a while. It's feeling tight. But it's been a really good evening and process putting this together. You never know what new things are going to turn out like, right? And this being like our first time is always like, oh my God, what are we, And will people actually just enjoy the thing? Because at the end of the day, it's about the customer experience, if I may. And from what I'm seeing, there's smiles, there's mms and So I think that's good, and we can take that home and we can write a book about it. So really happy to have put this together with you and had the opportunity to meet you firsthand and get to know who you are and be able to put this together. And so I want to thank everyone for making time to come out and sit with us and break bread, which I think is a very spiritual thing. And I look forward to like the many shows we're going to have of this nature and what it culminates into. I'm really glad to see everyone who's in touch with what's going on today with jazz and everyone's journey on it. So enjoy the meal. Please, guys, get out of those chairs. Come have some food. Have a bit of wine. What we'll do after this is there's a book signing thing that we have set up. Bokang will paste her photo onto the canvas. Tell us a little bit about how she felt about the evening, and everybody can sign that they were here. And that's really the story. And we hope to carry that into the future and make it like something we can, put in our museum 10 years from now when we've had like 100 artists come through onto the seat. Thank you for gracing us. We really appreciate you. You are fantastic. You are God-made, and we look forward to your growth. Enjoy your meal, guys, and thank you for coming through.
Can we also just take a moment to just thank the man behind the vision? What a brilliant concept, I see it growing. So let's post on Instagram. I don't know if people still tweet these days. What do you do? X? Whatever. Do whatever. And let's follow Bokang. And let's be the tribe that's behind Bokang with the new album that's coming out. Let's be the first ones to stream. And yeah. Thank you guys. It's been wonderful being your host.